Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clash of the Correspondents. My name's James, and in the first of a new series of C.O.T.C. for the 21-22 season, I'm delighted to be joined by, firstly, Matt Samuel, our Southampton correspondent. How are you, Matt?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, mate. And Gary Robinson, our Manchester United correspondent. How are you, Gary?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Matt, we have to start with you as the home team, as we always do. First thoughts on the performance and result at Everton, mate?
Where to start? I thought it was decent first half, to be fair. Obviously, capitalised on that awful Michael Keane error. Good to see Adam Armstrong start. That took me by surprise. And I think, to be fair, obviously the lineup that I sent you, that we posted out on the thread, there's 4 or 5 players different in there. So seeing the likes of Gineppo, obviously Adams, Livramento, which I'm sure we'll come on to, all getting starts was surprising, but good to see. Almost like Ralph wasn't scared to make some of the big decisions. But
well, he'd said in the build-up, Hassan Hill, he said Armstrong and others will need time to integrate, and they won't start, and then they did.
Threw them straight in.
Yeah. Did you deserve to get beat in the end?
Yeah. I think going forward, we played well, but defensively, we spoke about it before. We were all over the place at times, particularly at centre back, and my opinions on our goalkeeper. So yeah, I think Everton, they were just pinging balls into the box. We struggled to deal with it, and then they rightly came out 3-1 winners. To be fair.
And just briefly on them, impressed with Everton, or more a case of you defensively a problem?
I was really impressed. I mean, I think at times we dealt with them well going down the wings, but they were just relentless with the amount of balls that they were putting in. And it was something I picked on quite early watching the game. And they just kept doing it. And eventually, got through. A couple of defensive mistakes, obviously, for Richarlison's goal, so at least he doesn't deal with it. But yeah, all in all, I was actually quite surprised with Everton's performance.
And Gary, for yourself, obviously 5-1's no 6-2, but good start, mate.
Yeah, very good start. Really impressed. I mentioned when I came on in pre-season that some of these home games where we've just not stamped our authority on teams that are mid-table-ish, and there was none of that on Saturday. It was the first half we were all over them. They got back in it, and he thought, "Oh, is it going to turn it away?" And it didn't. They just carried on going, and yeah, really impressed with them. And Solskjaer had another little mini masterclass again against Bielsa, and a really good result and a really good performance.
I used the term masterclass on the podcast the other day. I don't know if that's why you're saying it as well. We was a little bit critical of him I'd say critical's harsh, but the belief that not sure you can win a title with him in charge. Does that change your opinion over the weekend? Or was it just the case that Leeds are not going to play like other mid-table teams and come and play you?
Yeah, there is a bit of both, isn't there? I mean, yeah, Bielsa doesn't really care where he's playing, does he? He's going to play like that and see what happens. There was a few games towards the end of last season when they went a bit more conservative, wasn't there? But yeah, so you have to, there is that caveat. But I think it was interesting for Solskjaer that this was probably one of the first times he's had a good tactical performance that wasn't purely based on some sort of counter-attacking football. It was good to see Pogba playing in a bit of a freer position. Greenwood was interchanging. Fernandes was bombing on like a sort of a Frank Lampard type almost in his peak. He didn't spend a lot of time in a number 10 role, and that was really Pogba. So it was very fluid formation. Only really Dan James who stretched it on the right side, and yeah, it was good to see. But can we do that every week? And when we've got Sancho and Rashford and Cavani and the rest of it, have we got the players to play that fluid formation? Will he trust Pogba in a midfield role and give him that kind of freedom? The answer probably is no, but we'll have to see.
Brief thoughts on Leeds? Is that a concern for them or just one of them things?
No, I think they'll do that all season, won't they? They'll probably get 12, 13 clean sheets, and they'll probably concede 50, 60 goals. That they're going to be that kind of. They were that team last season. They conceded 6 to us there last season, and how many? They were still probably top 5 for clean sheets, weren't they? It's just how they're built, isn't it? They're a bit all or nothing, aren't they?
Yeah. Although that's Arsenal this year, you know that, right?
Well, yeah.
Matt, are you looking forward to the game on Sunday?
No. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back to St. Mary's. It's been a long time, obviously going to the game, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to what we're going to have to deal with.
Because
Not after watching that. I just think seeing the way that Bruno was able to kind of cut through that, Leeds defence, and you've got Pogba playing the balls in behind. If we've got even, if it's Bednarek and Salisu, I think we'll struggle with that like all day. Hopefully, winger wise, we might better cope a little bit more. But yeah, if you get in behind us, you're through.
You looking forward to it, Gary? Do you look at this and go routine 3 points or?
No, I don't think it'll be routine, but I am looking forward to it. It's just good to have football back, and if you win your first game, it's just good to have that. Can you get a roll? Because I think we mentioned it, the first 6 or 7 we've got on paper individually all look quite decent. So, and obviously the longer you string that unbeaten run, the easier the games get, don't they? If we lose on Sunday, then Wolves away the week after, you go, oh, that looks a bit tricky, and before you know it, you're down on everything again. So now I'm looking forward to it for now, but I don't think it'll be routine. We struggled there last season.
We're 2-0 down at half time, weren't we?
Yeah, and I think,
and deservedly so.
And I think, I don't know, was it the season before? It might have been 2 seasons before. I think we went 2-0 down and drew 2-2 and drew 2-2. Yeah. So I don't know if that's the last 2 consecutive. There might be one in the middle, but I don't think we ever win comfortably there. We never have done. I mean, our record at the Dell was absolutely terrible for a long time. And obviously at St. Mary's, I don't think our record's stunning, even though I think we will win on Sunday.
You'll be right though. I've seen your new third kit you're going to play in at the weekend. It's not grey, so you should be okay at the weekend, mate. At least you'll be able to see each other. And for yourself, Matt, I guess you need to go 3-0 up to feel safe against this opposition, the team that not just against yourselves over the last couple of years has proven you can come from behind many times. Do you own Bruno?
Yeah.
Do you own Salah?
Yep.
Who are you captaining?
Salah.
Because?
Home fixture. I think it's the home away debate, and personally I kind of don't want to go into that game knowing that I've captained Bruno, watching him. I mean, it'll hurt watching him score, but I don't want to see him. So yeah, no, it'll
probably
Salah.
hurt your FPL team a lot more if you don't stick the armband on him, mate. Particularly if Salah is obviously blanked as you don't play till Sunday. Gary, we had a big chat about Bruno and kind of justifying not buying him because of the price versus won't captain him that often.
Proven right on day 1, wasn't I?
We both were, mate. We both were. Do you feel any different about it now?
No. The only thing that's made me the only thing that I have slightly changed is that I had in my head that I wouldn't go for him for 7-8 weeks or whatever it was, but I've started thinking of ways I can get to him if it becomes a problem. I'm not, I captained Salah on game week 1. I got 91 points out of Bruno. I'm not thinking, because I think was it you who said you had 102 or whatever, but if you'd had Bruno, you'd been in the 90s.
I would have got 96, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have been the same, because having Bruno, I wouldn't have been able to have Richarlison and things like that, and so I'd have had a 4.5 million striker probably, and I'd have had Ben White in my 11 or things like that, so I'd have lost out there. So I'll be captaining Salah on Saturday. I've got no worries about that. The only thing that has changed is that I'm pondering whether to go Salah to Bruno for 3 and 4 now. Or
that's exactly where I'm at. I think it's just
which I wasn't doing before that. But watching it on Saturday, and I wasn't panicking, but you just think, oh, that's the test, isn't it? Can I actually do this for a long sustained period, watching him play like that? But I think the other thing is, and I think we all need to think is that, and for the good of you enjoying the game, is that in the next few weeks when Kane's back off strike and Man City are up and running and Lukaku's up and running, you're not going to be able to afford Kane, Salah, Mane, Son, Vardy, De Bruyne, Sterling. Every week, Lukaku, every week, one of these big hitters is going to go off, aren't they? Because the league just looks so, it looks just haves and have nots, doesn't it? It looks so polarised at the minute. All these 10, 11, 12 million pounders. One of them's going to go off every week, and you're probably not going to have. You can't have them all, can you? And if you start messing around rotating and picking out the fixtures, that'll be high risk, high reward. That.
No,
So I think you're just going to have to, when he scored that hat trick, it's just like, well, yeah.
There's plenty who'll make the case though, won't they? That if you're sitting there, have you got Son as well, Matt?
No, see that's the one that I'm missing out on.
But there are obviously teams that have got Salah, Fernandes, and Son, and are sitting there going, well, there's my justification. Not worried about the rest. Where at the moment it's them three, isn't it? Whereas I think you're absolutely right, Gary. Once we get into the other side of the international break, you're potentially bringing another 3 or 4 players back into the conversation. I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise, all this Salah versus Bruno talk, it wouldn't be a surprise if KDB started for Man City and went off, would it, this weekend, for example?
Yeah.
So you absolutely can't have them all. Matt, I want to speak to you about Livramento.
Yep.
I was shocked that he started.
Likewise.
Not because, I mean, I don't know a lot about the player other than he's extremely highly rated and had impressed for you in pre-season. But it was a shock to see him in the team ahead of Kyle Walker-Peters. What's your thoughts on that and what's likely next?
So the same as you, as soon as I saw his name, I was shocked, particularly as obviously Walker-Peters, I thought had a good pre-season. Having kind of heard Ralph's presser afterwards and, conversations that he's had with the Echo, I think Livramento was in there on merit. It sounds as though he's impressed him in the performances in pre-season. He's been doing well in training. And he specifically chose him because of his ability to deal with Richarlison one-on-one. And I actually thought he did really well against him, not only defensively, but the way he picked up the ball and drove at Everton. There was a few times where he took 2 or 3 players on, got down the line, and the ball that he put in the box might have not been the greatest, but to see him do that time and time again, I thought was really good. And that's probably why he's ahead of Kyle Walker-Peters, because I think he's a little bit taller, he's maybe a little bit stronger, and it just seems a bit sharper defensively. So there's definitely going to be competition. Now, by no means I'm saying that he's nailed constantly, but I think you will see Livramento feature quite regularly this season.
Do you expect him probably to stay in the team?
Yeah.
I mean, he's one for those who are wildcarding. We did a podcast on Tuesday about budget defenders. And he does kind of instantly already look like he's going to potentially be the standout 4.0 during this season. What does it mean for Walker-Peters then?
I just think it means that he's got up his game a bit, to be honest, because last season we didn't have the cover for Walker-Peters. I think when he missed out occasionally, you saw Prowsey going right back, or we'd have to play Jack Stevens there. Now, for Walker-Peters to have that competition now can only be a good thing. Hopefully that will drive him on, because I rate him. I think he's a really good fullback, and potentially we might have the decision where we have to try and squeeze both of them in. But for now, it can only be a good thing in terms of squad depth.
I think both players, it's worth saying, can both play at left back. Walker-Peters, I've certainly seen do it for Tottenham. I understand Livramento can as well. What did you make of the new boy Pro at left back?
I thought he was all right. I mean, I thought out of the 2, Livramento had the better game, but Perot, didn't really have any issues. I've been impressed with him in pre-season, and I think he's solid and a pretty decent replacement for Bertrand.
You going to buy a centre back, mate?
We need to.
No shit.
I think Ralph in his has said a couple of times now that we're looking for at least one more, and that is the place that we have to buy. I mean, obviously we've let Vestergaard go to Leicester. Jack Stevens, for me, isn't a Premier League player. So it will be Salisu and Bednarak at the moment. Whether we bring in someone, I mean, I've heard Gary Cahill's name mentioned, and I don't think he's the type of player we should be going for. But
experience,
perhaps at the moment, for experience, to kind of guide these younger players, it might be a good kind of year kind of signing. But I'd like to see them maybe bring in 1 or 2 to at least have cover.
What's happening with the money then? Because when you came on, we kind of speculated that there was a good possibility that Ings and Vestergaard may both leave, which they have.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say you actually got more money for the 2 than we were originally expecting. So you can say the Vestergaard money's been spent on Armstrong.
Yep.
Is the other 30 mil going to get spent, mate? Or is it just in the back pocket again?
Nah, it'll be sat there again. It's what we do. We sell for profit, and we don't buy for anywhere near what we've kind of got as our net profit. So it's frustrating.
You think your business is done, Gary?
Probably, yeah. I think they keep talking about going after a midfielder, maybe. But I don't think you're going to get anyone of any great note coming to the club now. With 10 days to go, I mean, it'd be big money. We've spent quite a lot, especially by the Glazers standards, in one summer. We spent about 100 million, haven't we? So to find another 50, 60 for a midfielder seems unlikely, especially this late on. It's a big deal because it's not like there's anything. It's not like, say, Kane to City, which has been rumbling on for months. This, if anything comes now, it'd be coming out of the blue, wouldn't it? With what?
I think, yeah.
2 weeks to go. So I can't see us doing anything more.
No, the Trippier dead depends where you read. Some say it's dead, some say it's still possibly on right at the death, maybe.
It seems like that they've decided that Dalot might be the cover, but whether that's just trying to get his price up for a late deal, I don't know. And maybe if we sell Lingard for 25, 30 million, maybe that frees up some money to spend. But I mean, if we're going to buy a midfielder of any note, you're going to be looking at 50s and 60s and the rest, aren't you? And I haven't really seen us definitively linked to anyone. So,
have you heard any more rumours about possible back three? Because it was something that's been mentioned with the idea of getting Trippier. I guess if Dalot's considered, or you can obviously keep Wan-Bissaka at right wing back and play Varane, Lindelof, and Maguire. Now they're all together. Have you heard anything more tactically about that, perhaps against some of the bigger opposition?
I haven't heard anything. I think given the issues you're going to have fitting Pogba, Greenwood, Cavani, Sancho, Rashford in, Martial, whichever combination, given the issues you're going to have fitting some of them in, to me it just feels, it just doesn't, I don't think it suits us. Maybe in one-off matches he'll do it, but I think the bigger aim is to try and get into being a three-man midfield with only one sitter in. I think that'll be the biggest tactical shift if we can manage it. But I don't know if Fred or McTominay can play as a one by themselves. I think together they've both got like complementary skill sets. I don't think either of them have got it all together just to play in there by themselves. So
they're both energy players, aren't they? They want to go and get the ball.
Yeah, but McTominay is decent on the ball, I would say. But I mean, Fred's not much use on the ball. Matic is great on the ball, but obviously you don't get the energy. They've all got the three of them. If you could combine the three of them, you'd have a player. But they've all got bits and pieces of what you'd need. And I just don't. Pogba played unbelievably well on Saturday, and I'm a massive fan of his. But what you would say about him is if he's going to play in the three, if you're going to let him off the leash, then you're going to have to say to him, well, we don't want your defense. You don't want your defensive work. Bruno's not going to chip in defensively, so it can be very easy to become quite an open midfield. That given the limitations of McTominay and Fred, so I've got my doubts whether he'll actually ever get around to doing it.
Two of Bruno's goals, Matt, at the weekend came from running off of Robin Koch, who played holding midfield for Leeds, and we know Leeds like to go man to man. Are you Romeo and Ward-Prowse in that area on Sunday?
Yeah,
Romeo is a very switched on player defensively, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you see Bruno running through the heart of you and your centre backs getting split as what happened to Leeds at the weekend?
I think Romeo will be tasked with getting stuck in. The way that the game goes, I think, will depend on how early Romeo picks up a yellow card.
In other words, it's a certainty, just a case of when rather than if, right?
Always.
I really like him. I've said that to you before. And I think it's a different challenge. It's very difficult to almost compare any player who's just played against Leeds to what's going to come next, because nobody really stylistically plays in the way that Leeds do. I can't see if Bruno drops off to the halfway line to get the ball deep, I can't see like Romeo going with him, and he's just going to let him go and stay stationary. So running off the ball would definitely be more difficult. It's worth saying I watched some of the highlights back of the 3-2 game last year, and Bruno, who scored, I want to say United's first goal in the game, he missed a sitter in the first half as well. Romeo played that game, so it's not like he can't get the chances. We're just saying they might not be in the same fashion for this game. Are you expecting Ward-Prowse to stay now, Matt? I know that was your opinion a couple of weeks ago. Is that still the same?
Yeah, I don't think that changes. I mean, obviously we know about the Villa bid, but I think he's set on staying with the club, at least for this season. He's captain. I don't think he goes anywhere. The fact that he played the first game was a surprise. Obviously, he had his injury, but kind of got himself fit in that week. And yeah, Hasenhüttl threw him straight back in.
I was a bit concerned about that because I've just been speaking about, if Harry Kane's got the ankle knock and he's going to miss a few games, then you start getting worried. And as soon as I said it, I saw similar about Ward-Prowse, who obviously hadn't missed a minute for 2 years. And I thought, I don't like this. I'm a bit worried for you. His role in the teams as a leader now, we still forget how young he is, really, don't we?
Yeah.
Surely takes on even greater significance with senior people like Ings and Vestergaard, obviously now gone.
Yep. No, 100%. I think the reason that he plays 90 minutes week in, week out is because he is a voice. He's got a bit about him as well. He's not afraid to get stuck in. We've saw, I think, over the last 2-3 seasons, he enjoys his battles with the likes of Zaha. Like he's a bit of a wind-up merchant, which I quite enjoy. And I think other players kind of thrive off of that around him and go with it. So if he's getting stuck in, well, I've got to put the effort in. And that's the reason he plays every single game.
And Gary, what do we think team-wise now for Sunday's game with Sancho available, Martial available? What are you expecting, or are you expecting the same lineup?
Yeah, I think we'll be unchanged. Obviously played really well. We had a behind closed doors friendly yesterday, which Sancho and Martial both started. So I know it was only a friendly, but if they were going to start the weekend, you would expect them to have limited minutes on yesterday. I think it was only Maguire that played on Saturday.
Did he ever miss a game, Maguire? I saw that. It's the first thing I saw. Maguire scores in behind closed doors friendly. Yeah. What's he playing for?
I don't know. I mean, you'd think if given how much he played over the summer, but maybe he's still a bit rusty. I mean, obviously he had that injury. He had a long injury, didn't he? From
true.
April, May-ish to whenever the knockout started.
Game 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, so maybe that was his pre-season almost. Maybe that, and he felt like he needed a run out. So no, I think it was the same 11. I think Greenwood will start. I thought Greenwood played really well on Saturday. I thought there's a couple of. I mean, his finish was unbelievable. We all knew he could finish, but for the Fred's goal when he drops in deep and plays Pogba in, and there was the one where he dropped deep early on and ran at the heart and put Pogba in when he missed that sitter. Little things like that, which you've never really seen from Greenwood before. Just that bit of, not obviously he's not at the same level, but that thing like a Kane or a Firmino were doing, dropping in deep and
it's game intelligence and development, isn't it?
Joining in the play, which he obviously gets stuck out wide quite a lot, so he maybe doesn't get that chance. But I thought he did really well. So I can't really see who you would swap out. I mean, Pogba and Fernandes won't come out. I mean, I suppose maybe the question would be, will Sancho come in for Dan James? But like I say, Sancho played yesterday, so
I just wonder if
they might ease him in.
Well, I just wonder if this is a good game to put him in.
Yeah.
But then the one thing your team never lacks, Matt, is that intensity and vibrancy. That's not in question. We're just really concerned about how many goals you're going to be conceding at the moment, actually. So I guess that goes both ways. But in terms of Sancho building up his confidence, Gary, I would look at the fixture and think, this is a decent game for him, actually, potentially to start. So, I mean, Daniel James would be the one that's questionable, I guess. Yeah,
he'll be the one most at risk because I don't think he did all right tactically and team-wise on Saturday, but his work on the ball is just so far below the standard, isn't it, sometimes? And so he'll be the one at risk. But I'm just thinking because Sancho played yesterday, whether that means that he's got him earmarked for the bench again on Sunday.
And Martial, what's your thoughts at the moment? Is he going to go possibly?
I don't think we've got the cover. I mean, Cavani's a great player, but I think he only started 13 games was last year. Greenwood, we've just spoken about, doesn't tend to play that many games centrally. Rashford's out till October, November time. I think it wouldn't leave us short, but it would, and what kind of money would we get for Martial now? I mean, unless they need it to buy someone straight away, I think Martial will stay.
I just wonder if it's one.
I think he'll stay this summer anyway.
I just wonder if it's one as a possible loan for a year that might work well for everybody.
Yeah.
If Pogba's going to continue to be used in the position he was used against Leeds, and there's no guarantee of that, by the way, with Cavani coming back in as well, and then you're going to integrate Sancho, you start looking at it and thinking, well, if he wasn't in that team on Saturday, how's he going to get into it? But then the other thing is, like you mentioned, Dan James. I want to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, I think Dan James played all 3 games against Leeds, including the 2 last year.
Well, he definitely started. He definitely played in the 6-2.
Yeah,
he played quite well, and he scored one of the goals. I think I can't remember that 0-0 game because it was dreadful, wasn't it, towards the end of the season, and so I can't really remember.
But in terms of say Greenwood's movement off the front, because what he was doing was drawing centre backs out with him to open up space for others. Solskjaer may well just looked at that and gone, do you know what? That's not for Martial.
No.
You might look at Southampton and think, well,
yeah,
they're not going to do that. Maybe this is a better game for him. Would you be shocked if suddenly he was back in the team? Martial plays, Greenwood's out wide.
I wouldn't be massively shocked, but I mean, they were still talking last week that Martial was still building his fitness up and would need a few weeks. So, given how well we played, it would seem unlikely, but I suppose it's not. Like you say, you could put Greenwood wide right, but then if you're going to do that, then where's you're definitely not getting Sancho in the team, then are you? So I think more realistic is Sancho for James and leave Greenwood where he is for the next couple.
And Pogba, obviously brilliant performance at the weekend, arguably the best set of assists in a Premier League game ever. I say set, it's obviously all 4, isn't it? Except obviously Harry Kane's against yours in game week 2 last year, Matt, which you would have obviously definitely forgotten. Where do you see him now, Gary? Because it feels like we've gone kind of on this upward, downward roller coaster with him. And off it comes from Raiola. We know he wants to stay, he wants to go. He's got a year left on the contract.
Yeah,
he definitely looks like he's probably going to at least stay beyond this window. Where do you expect him to be playing in the coming game weeks, positionally?
I think there's a good chance that he'll stay where he played on Saturday, because I don't see Solskjaer going to this midfield that he keeps talking about and trusting Fred and McTominay by themselves. I think and given that Rashford's out, I think he might end up staying in that sort of wide left, floating number 2, whatever it was. Because I mean, it was wide left, but he was basically allowed to go where he wanted, wasn't he? I mean, he was picking it up deep. He was getting it high. And that's what suits him, really. I think if you say to him, you get on the ball wherever you want, he loves that. That's what he loves. He wants that responsibility, doesn't he? When you try and shoehorn him in, as a genuine wide left or in that deep 6 role and tell him to do a lot of defensive work, he can do it, and he has done it, but you don't get the best out of him. And there's no point spending 90 million on him to shove him wherever there's a gap. So I hope we keep playing him there, because I think if we keep playing him there, he borders and he plays well and he fancies it. He does border on the unstoppable, because he's got absolutely everything in his game. He can do everything, but it's just stringing the consistency together. And I think sometimes that's on him, but a lot of the time it's on the various managers he's had who just can't find a role for him or don't trust people around him to do their job, and he ends up having to do 3 or 4 different roles at the same time. So I hope we get something where we can just keep him in that wide left role certainly for these games, which on paper look a bit softer than that run we've got in 8 to 15 or whatever it is.
I like your use of the term softer. That could have been a lot worse, mate.
Yeah.
In terms of Pogba, the FPL asset, I mean, for me, I need to see more. I need to see stuff against teams not called Leeds United. But there'll be a set of people out there at the moment, and we should say we're recording this early on Wednesday the 18th, and we haven't got confirmed news on Ilkay Gundogan. There'll be people out there sitting there with Gundogan at the same price, possibly out the weekend, looking for a replacement. Should Pogba be under consideration versus Greenwood, or is it obvious to just stay with Greenwood?
I mean, to me, I'd prefer Greenwood, and I have Greenwood in my team as well. But I think the problem with Pogba as a fancy asset is that one, he'll play really well, but you might not necessarily. I mean, Saturday he did get the returns, but other days he might absolutely run the show, but not actually get the assists. And his goal numbers without penalties are, he's probably barely ever scored more than 5 or 6 without penalties in the season. So you're not going to get many goals from him. I mean, what he must be? Has he gone up in price? Is he 7-6 now?
I'm not sure if he has, but if he hasn't, I'm sure it will.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's you're not paying a lot of money, and if he is playing wide left-ish against Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, Everton, Villa, or something, I can't remember the exact running now. Something like that, isn't it? It's not the worst buy, but I think you've got Greenwood there, who will probably get a decent run of games playing up front. And if you look elsewhere, I mean, you've got Grealish and Jota, and but I suppose with Pogba, you guaranteed the minutes, aren't you? But you're not going to get many goals from him, so you are relying on assists then. And
that was going to be my next question on Greenwood. What's next? And I think we can be confident he'll play this weekend. But what does the outlook look for him, do you think, once Cavani and Sancho are integrated back into the squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be the big question will be Cavani when Cavani comes back. I don't think Sancho coming back will impact him too much, because they might end up where Sancho goes to the left, which obviously there's another reason to maybe put you off Pogba, and they might put Greenwood back to the right and play Cavani. We don't know. I mean, if Greenwood keeps playing like he did on Saturday, I don't see how they couldn't completely drop him. And it depends how long Cavani's going to. It's not like he's been off. He's been on holiday all this time. I think he only got back into the country last Thursday, so I can't see Cavani being fit this side of the international break. And then I suppose the question is,
he might go again, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Uruguay must have games in that international break, so which maybe we should check. But I don't know. I can't really see when Cavani can come back, given that Greenwood's had a full pre-season. He had a break obviously because of his injury, and then he's had a full pre-season. He must be miles ahead of Cavani in terms of fitness and sharpness, and Martial seems to be a few weeks off it as well. So I think if you've got Greenwood, you'd be happy sticking with him until that international break and seeing where it all lands then. If you haven't got him, you might be reluctant to go in, I guess, because for all I've just said, he could easily put Sancho and Martial back in it for the Wolves game, couldn't he? And then you'd be missing it.
Yeah, my view on it was always let's see what happens in between 3 and 4. Should be okay for the start of the season. Have you just got Fernandes, Matt, from United?
Yeah. At the moment, I think I'd obviously like the at least the double up. I think it's what, game week 7, game week 8, when your fixtures kind of look sharp. For now, it's 100%.
Gone from soft to sharp now. I like that. Depends on the outlet, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Talk to me about the 2 Armstrongs, Matt. Where's Stuart first?
I don't know. I expected Stuart Armstrong to start. So I was surprised to see him left out. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back in. I think the 2 wingers are likely to rotate quite a lot this season, because we've got a lot. We've obviously got Armstrong. Yeah, exactly. Armstrong, Redmond, they both missed out. It was Walcott and Gineppo this time. But yeah, I think Stuart will come in at some point. As for Adam Armstrong, I was very impressed. I mean, I've seen quite a bit of him last season for Blackburn, and he is rapid, like we spoke about before. And I think he's the ideal partner for Adams, because Adams is strong. And obviously with the flick on and whatnot, Adams is the one that can play the ball through, and Armstrong can run onto them. And I think I'm glad we've gone with someone with a bit of pace, because the likes of, say, Teller, Walcott, similar-ish players in terms of pace. But I think Armstrong's finishing is just, class above.
Armstrong will definitely be the better asset than Adams for FPL, won't he?
Yeah, I agree. I think you'll quite often see Adams will be assisting Armstrong.
Do you expect? We saw Danny Ings drop off quite a lot into space over the last couple of years. Do you expect Adams to now pick up that role in his place?
Yeah, it honestly wouldn't surprise me, and he did do it quite a bit anyway when Ings was out, and it allowed people to run on. But yeah, I think he will probably be given that role because he's a good hold-up player. Like, he can easily hold off 2 or 3 defenders, play someone back into the game, and I fully expect that throughout the season.
I'm obviously not going to ask you to recommend Southampton players for this particular week, but is there a point in time that you're looking ahead? I know we spoke on Correspondent Week about the 2 points from the first 8, the corresponding fixtures from last season, but obviously game 8 is now Leeds. Or do you look at kind of from game week 3, Newcastle, West Ham, Man City, Wolves, particularly if you're going for someone like Livramento? I mean, do we get a clear indication if he plays again this weekend of what it means?
I think it's a risk that if people want to take it, I would, because at the end of the day, if you've got Livramento, you're likely to have at least someone that plays first on your bench. So if Livramento does miss out, then you've got someone to come in. And yeah, I was kind of reassessing the fixtures this week and looking at it because, the likes of Lukaku, Kane, people are potentially going to want to bring them in. There's no reason why you couldn't downgrade to someone like Livramento or even Armstrong, because obviously Armstrong's only 6. If you wanted that cheaper striker that is going to get minutes, is going to play every game, I expect, then yeah, the likes of Newcastle, Wolves, I think they're games that we could get points and could get goals. So there's no reason why, if you want to, take that risk.
I think Armstrong's going to do really well for you, mate.
Yeah,
I hope so. As we discussed, I'm concerned that probably Armstrong and Adams probably need to get 30 goals or so.
Yeah.
Because of what's happening at the back as well, because it felt like as soon as Everton equalised at the weekend, the writing was suddenly on the wall that you were going to capitulate. I mean, we never even know from one week to the other who's going to play in goal for you, do we?
Nah.
Has there been any shout of that rotating again, or is it
not
McCarthy's shirt?
I think it's McCarthy's shirt at the moment, but a few fans that I've been speaking to out of the two would prefer to see Forster in there. I'm just amazed that we're not looking elsewhere, but I genuinely think it's a case of we haven't been able to move either of them on, and there's no need to bring in another keeper and Hasenhutl's eyes, but I think most of the fans will disagree.
I think this is a really big couple of weeks for Southampton, as much off the pitch as on it, actually. I think you have got depth in certain areas, and I still look at that front line, and exactly we're speaking about even the depth in the wide areas, and I think, I know you'll come and press and you'll make games difficult for us, but I also am beginning to look at it even more now with Vestergaard and Bertrand gone and think, do you know what? If you can keep them out, it's highly probable that the majority of teams are going to score against you.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is the other issue, even going with Livramento at 4.0. Are you expecting anything other than 1s and 2s?
No, not particularly. I mean, looking at him against Everton, quite possible he can get attack and returns. I mean, there's no reason why he doesn't continue to bomb down the line. He might even get a goal or 2, but you'll be reliant on that because, I can't see us keeping many clean sheets this season unless we sign a solid, experienced centre-back to try and lead the line.
How close do you think Hasenhüttl is to losing his job?
It's tricky. I think we spoke about before, James. I think if he doesn't get more than the 2 points in the first 8 games, he's under real pressure. I just think the board, after everything that he's gone through, have cut him some slack, and it seems like behind closed doors, the players really believe in what the system that he wants to push and believe in going forward with him. But there's only so much I think the fans can take, and I mean, if we're bottom 3, 10 games in, and there's teams, the likes of Brentford and stuff are pulling away, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, because what I always find mad is that obviously it sounds like the players do, think a lot of him, but then the amount of games where it just seems the roof just caves in out of nowhere,
Yeah,
and you just think, that's usually a classic example of a team that not really interested in the manager. It's such a weird.
His biggest issue is the fact that he has no plan B, or when he does, it isn't until the 80th minute. So against Everton, for instance, we didn't change anything until the 78th minute, and by then it was too late.
Yeah.
What is that as a change, Matt, at that point of a game?
It's just, you kind of want to go for a bit more of an attack and intent. So the likes of, a bit of pace. Djenepo wasn't really influencing the game. It took him to the 80th minute to even consider Nathan Tella. Whereas as soon as Everton got into the game, I would have expected him to come on and, at least press, because he's got a bit about him. And then, the likes of bring Stuart Armstrong, a bit of experience, someone that can hold the ball up and, look to play a pass. But we're very reluctant to change the first 11 for long periods of the game.
I think it's interesting what Gary says about obviously defensive, and it makes you questions like, I never watch Southampton and think, oh, they're not playing for the manager, or they don't care. I never feel like that. I mean, even we've got, I don't know, 35 minutes through the podcast or so, and we haven't mentioned it, but even the game at Old Trafford, it wasn't a case that you didn't care, right? That wasn't like the other one against Leicester.
It was a completely different scenario, I think, to the one against Leicester. Just everything almost went against us. That game, obviously VAR, we had the immediate sending off with a young lad. It's ridiculous. And he's moved on now, thankfully. But well, he had put in a transfer request because he wasn't happy that he wasn't getting minutes and whatnot. And
yeah, but you weren't happy you couldn't get more than 80 seconds out of him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then we got 80 seconds, and then he's ruined us for the game. So yeah, completely different scenario, but it was annoying to see the same situation happen again.
You can ask Gary the same question now if you want, Matt. Like, how many defeats is Solskjaer away from the sack?
They won't. Them lot wouldn't sack him, would they? They just, he's a.
But you know how it is though, Gary. He's 2 defeats in a row and it's crisis, isn't it? So he very quickly turns around. Do you, Matt? Do you know your intended FPL transfer this weekend? Just out of interest.
I'm planning to roll. I think I want 2 going into game week 3.
And Gary?
I'm rolling as well. That was my plan pre.
This is mad. It feels like everybody is.
Yeah, well, that was my plan pre-game week 1, and obviously, if it had gone wrong, then I wouldn't have done. But got 91. Like I said, I'm happy with my captain, and then I'm going to roll. And I left myself 1.5 million in the bank. So that's when I can look at trying to get Bruno in if I fancy it after this weekend, or Son, or both. So yeah, I'm going to roll.
I mean, I mentioned it on the pod we had with Callum Mates pre-season. I mentioned the idea that if I was blessed enough to get to game week 3 and have no issues, I probably would go Salah to Bruno for the 2 games and go back. And remarkably, 1 week in, that's looking a bigger prospect. But I'm not going Salah to Bruno this week.
I think the only issue for me is not having City assets, but I've no idea who's going to start, so I'm not even going to go there.
You both know Kevin De Bruyne is going to be the top scoring player in FPL this week.
Or it'll be Gabriel Jesus' one weekend a year, won't it?
1 weekend a year, yeah.
He'll get 4, and then we're like, 8.5 million for a Man City striker.
I love it this time of year when all the shit assets do really well and everyone steams into it. Makes my day.
Yeah.
Guys, absolute pleasure. Thank you both so much for your time. Before we finish up, Matt, prediction for the game?
3-1 United. I think much of the same.
Gary?
I'll go 9. No, I'm joking.
I'll
say, let's say a 4-2 classic to United.
Wow.
I think there'll be goals.
And you still don't want Bruno. No, you're right. Sure.
Well, I do, but who am I selling Salah against Burnley for him? So no, that's I've made my bed. I'll lay in it.
Literally stole my thunder there as well, mate. Well done. I was going to do that. No, I think exactly the same as Matt. I think Southampton will score. I always generally quite fancy Southampton to nick a goal, and I know because I've got Luke Shaw and many of the rest of us do as well. That they're going to keep conceding goals. They're going to win 3-1 every week at the moment, I think. So yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 to United as well. Matt, where can the guys find you on Twitter? Because you've changed your handle. Let everyone know, my friend.
It's now at CS_wipeout.
CS_wipeout.
Yeah.
You sure there's an underscore?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is.
Who suggested the underscore?
It might have been you.
No, I might have suggested the rest of the handle. I don't know about the underscore. Can't stand them things. And Gary, where can everyone find you, mate, on Twitter?
Is my cat playing?
Good man, because whenever I say it, everyone thinks I'm meowing in the background, mate. Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. I'll be streaming tomorrow on YouTube around about 3 p.m. UK time with my Ask James stream. And then I'll be streaming again 10 o'clock UK time on Saturday morning, where I'm looking forward to lots of repetitive questions of shall I roll my transfer this week? I doubt that will actually be the case. But thanks very much again to Matt and to Gary. Cue music, please, man child.